Partners, as you know, more than a year ago, we profiled the story of Paul Revere. Not only was he famous for his midnight ride, he was also mentioned in one of my reports about the so-called Boston Massacre. That incident in which British soldiers fired into a crowd of Americans, killing half a dozen, sparked the revolution. And it was an engraving of the incident, highly modified to paint the colonists as the victims, that was distributed around the colonies, and the man who did the engraving was Paul Revere. So in this report, we're going to talk about Paul Revere again, but with some added information. The idea that Paul Revere single-handedly warned the people of Massachusetts that the British were coming is, of course, wrong. Revere was just one of dozens of volunteers who were ready to spread the word and warn the colonists. We simply remember him best because of that classic poem, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, written by Longfellow and published a long time after the Revolution in 1861. Most school children can recite the opening, quoting, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere." On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. So, Jimmy, where is all of this going? Paul Revere is a famous engraver and one of a dozen or so guys who were at the ready to warn the colonists of British troop movements, and he stars in a famous poem. I'm going to ask you again, where is this all going? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, our honoree this week is not Paul Revere. No, that's right. Our honoree this week is not Paul Revere. As a matter of fact, our honoree could be one of two different people, either Robert Newman or Captain John Pulling. What? Yeah, so partners, you see, both Newman and Pulling had very special jobs. They were in charge of taking care of the Old North Church. That's right, history is not sure if it was Robert Newman or Captain John Pulling who climbed into the belfry and lit those two lanterns to tell Revere and the others that the British were coming. Modern day historians think of it, it might have been both of them. But you see, back in revolutionary times, no one wanted the credit for hanging the lanterns. But does it matter? What the Longfellow poem did was to keep that night alive in the minds of today's Americans. No matter who hung the two lanterns, and no matter who rode through the country hillside, all of them were early American patriots. All of them did their job. So, I'll see you next week. Until then, you know the drill. Find that great big red X at the top and click it, and you will be magically transported back to the report page. I love you guys. Go get 'em, Tigers!